Another LEGO Lord of the Rings minifigure market analysis video. This is where we talk about what minifigures we expect to be increasing in price, or which ones you should get for your collection right now before they do increase in price. The previous episodes we saw the Rings of Power and in general the theme before we had any information about the LEGO theme returning or any of the TV shows coming out. Right now, for this episode, we now know Rivendell has come out or is coming out. We know the minifigures that come in that, as well as the leaked images of Barad-dûr and what minifigures will come out in that set as well. So we're here on brickset.com taking a look at all of the minifigures, and we sorted them from the most expensive to the least expensive. Reason being, the more expensive minifigures will rise in value faster than the less expensive minifigures. This is just how the collectible market works. Something that's more sought after becomes more and more sought after in general, and the lesser stuff kind of plateaus a lot of the times. At least this is the case for LEGO minifigures. So we're looking at the top 5 most expensive right now. We have Bilbo, we have Grima, Mouth of Sauron, Radagast, and King Theoden. Looking at these top 5 figures, the one that stands out to me that will be increasing the most is Mouth of Sauron. The reason being, in the Barad-dûr set, we learned that the set will have Sauron himself, some orcs, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, but there is no Mouth of Sauron. So if people are buying a LEGO set that costs over $400 based on Barad-dûr, based on the Eye of Sauron, based on Mordor, and they're not getting the Mouth of Sauron with it, I think they're going to want to add the Mouth of Sauron, or at least enough people will want to buy this figure that I would expect it to increase in price quite a bit. Right now it's currently $60, so if you don't want to watch the rest of this video, if there's one minifigure you want to buy the Mouth of Sauron. He's the number one minifigure to buy right now, because he's already the third most expensive minifigure at over $60, and they're releasing a Barad-dûr set without him. So now let's kind of shift gears. I did want to mention that off the bat, but let's shift gears to talking about the theme returning in general. So we learned in the Rivendell set, we got all of the 9 Fellowship of the Ring. This is something that I told you in the last episodes, that if the theme did return, the Fellowship of the Ring would absolutely 100% be made. And that's actually also why I told you the Council of Elrond was one of the 2 candidates for the direct-to-consumer set. And literally that prediction came true on the dot, actually. So all of those Fellowship minifigures have been remade. And similarly, if there are more sets, we would expect the more common characters from Lord of the Rings to be made as well. So keep that in mind when we look through this list. For instance, Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took. The reason these minifigures are very expensive now is because a lot of people have been trying to get the complete Fellowship of the Ring. Well, now the complete Fellowship of the Ring just came out again. So there's no reason for these figures to really increase as much as the other minifigures that didn't just get re-released. So all of those figures in the Rivendell set, I wouldn't recommend buying. So that's all of the Fellowship of the Ring, and then Arwen, Elrond in particular. I will say the Arwen minifigure is better than the one that is coming out. It is actually a different outfit, and it looks pretty cool. So when it comes to Arwen, I would actually recommend buying Arwen anyway, even with her being re-released, because this version is just so much better, and a lot of people may want to add this figure to replace the one that comes in the set. So Arwen I would recommend. All of the other figures from the Rivendell set or characters, I wouldn't recommend buying any of these older variants from. On the other hand, let's go ahead and take a look at a lot of the figures that either have not been re-released or characters, or may or may not be re-released. So I told you the more expensive figures will rise in price faster, and this could be true of Saruman and Grima. Maybe not so much about these figures themselves, but the Lego set that they come in, the Tower of Orthanc. If you do not have the Tower of Orthanc set at this moment in time, I would recommend for you to buy that set. So the number one minifigure, buy Mouth of Sauron. Number one set is buy Tower of Orthanc, because with Barad-dûr coming out, people are going to want the other tower, which is Orthanc. Of course, really the two towers refers to Orthanc and Minas Morgul, but for 99% of people, it's Orthanc and Barad-dûr. So go ahead and buy Barad-dûr. I don't know if that means Saruman and Grima will rise that much in price, but the tower set they come in will absolutely go in price. So maybe you can buy the set and then sell the figures or something like that. So as far as minifigures that aren't coming out, so those are not really a recommendation to buy. I just wanted to mention to buy that set. I wouldn't really recommend buying these two figures. What figures I will recommend outside of Mouth of Sauron are Dane Ironfoot, this variant of Aragorn, and King Theoden. Other than Mouth of Sauron, who is my number one recommendation to buy, these are the three figures that I would recommend buying. And I'm going to tell you why. One, buy Aragorn, because as he is the sixth most expensive figure right now, this variant is completely different from the version from Rivendell, and it's highly, highly desirable. He has the White Tree of Gondor. Yes, it's possible he could be remade, but given the status of this figure, he's absolutely going to be increasing in price before he gets remade. You know, I will say with these Lord of the Rings minifigures, there is a risk you buy this and he gets remade and he doesn't increase in price that much. So keep that in mind. When it comes to the Hobbit minifigures, that really isn't likely. That's why I'd recommend buying Dane Ironfoot, because unlike Aragorn, who is also very desirable, Dane Ironfoot is not going to come out in a set anytime soon. You know, I'm honestly doubtful that dubious that Aragorn will come out in this set. So Dane Ironfoot, there's no chance he's coming out in a Lego set. So that's why I'd recommend buying Dane Ironfoot. He's super cool dwarf. There's a lot of popularity with that species. He's the coolest minifigure from the dwarves, or at least his price is telling you that. So I'd recommend buying this Dane Ironfoot as the number 3 minifigure to buy. The number 4 minifigure to buy is King Theoden. 1, because obviously he's top 5 already in price, but 2, because he is a legendary character from the trilogy. Peter Jackson really hyped up the Rohirrim in the trilogy, in the movies, and additionally, the War of the Rohirrim anime is going to be based on Rohan with Helm Hammerhand, and so Rohan will have a huge spike in popularity. I do also 100% I'm telling you right now, there will be War of the Rohirrim sets because the anime is being made by Warner Brothers. So there will be Rohan sets to come out, but there may or may not be a Theoden. That would probably be the time they would remake a Theoden, but at least for this next year before the anime comes out, Theoden absolutely is going to explode in value. I will mention Gloin did come in the Rivendell set, but this variant of him is pretty different, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying him, but I will think he will increase in price just in general, like 99% of these figures that aren't the Fellowship of the Ring. They will increase in price. So like this Thorin, absolutely buy him if you want him. He will be increasing in price. This Pippin, on the other hand, he's been re-released. Don't buy him. So another minifigure is King of the Dead. Buy this dude. He's very likely not going to be remade. And if he is remade, well, I mean, we've got bigger problems. But this guy is not going to be remade. Absolutely recommend buying him. Looking at these other figures, I do in general want to recommend that if you're looking to buy a lot of figures and not have them be remade, if you're afraid of them being remade, just buy minifigures from The Hobbit. Because like this Thorin Oakenshield, this Dane Ironfoot I talked about earlier, they're not going to be remade. There's literally 0% chance that Lego will release enough Hobbit sets to cover a lot of these Hobbit characters like the Company of Thorin Oakenshield. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think that if Lego is releasing future sets, they'll either release the Rivendell Barad-dûr. I think it's more likely they release like a Bag End and not include all the dwarves. That could be a possibility that they would make it based off The Hobbit, but I think it's far more likely they would base it off of Lord of the Rings, for instance. Especially not with 13 dwarves. So other characters, I mean, again, it's your own risk as far as buying like Saruman. If you want him, get him. I do think in general these figures will be increasing in price with the theme returning, but as far as Saruman in particular, he's decently likely to be remade. So keep that in mind. So the Goblin King, absolutely buy him. The Witch King, this variant in particular, he's pretty cheap. I would buy him if I were you. You know, he's not super expensive as is. So that's in general what I wanted to say today is just buy the Hobbit figures that are expensive. Absolutely buy those. And then number one, buy Mouth of Sauron. Number one, absolutely buy him. If you want to be less risky, buy Dane Ironfoot second. Otherwise, if you want the highest possible figure, buy this version of Aragorn, buy King Theoden. And then, of course, the most expensive figure, Bilbo Baggins, he's not a bad option either. And then if you are interested in buying a Lego set, buy the Tower of Orthanc. So that's what I want to say to you guys. In general, if you guys want my thoughts on what exactly will return for the theme, whether we'll get play sets, I'll talk about that right now, just because it may be relevant for what minifigures are increasing in price. Absolutely, we know that in the past, the Lord of the Rings sets sold okay, but once the Hobbit sets started coming out, the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit theme in 2013 did not sell well at all. Only the first wave of Lego sets for Lord of the Rings sold well. So those were like Helm's Deep, Weathertop, Mines of Moria. Those sets sold well. The ones based on the 2013, like the Council of Elrond original set, the Battle of Blackgate, those did not sell well. So Lego knows that the Lord of the Rings is a better theme for them to make than the Hobbit. So of course, buy the Lord of the Rings. And they will most likely make more Lord of the Rings sets if they are to make more sets. Specifically, what kind of sets will they make? I mean, absolutely we'll have sets on shelves until War of the Rohirrim anime comes out. What sets exactly could those entail? Are they going to be more large sets? I think the reason they went with 2 large sets so far is because they know the theme wasn't very popular among kids, just facts. Kids didn't buy that many Hobbit sets. There were a lot of them that went on sale. There were a lot of Lord of the Rings sets that went on sale outside of that first wave. So they know that something like a $500 Rivendell is a better seller than $10, $50 sets, for instance. That's why they did it, just being real with why they did that. And that signals to me they won't want to continue releasing these release play sets, because they did give us the entire Fellowship off the bat, which is literally what I told you guys.